The sun rises over ancient Rome. As the city slowly awakens, one ordinary Roman prepares for another day. Inside his modest home, he reaches for the only tunic he owns. He carefully slips it over his shoulders, ties his leather belt around his waist, and steps outside into the cool morning air. As he walks through the streets of Rome, something immediately stands out. Almost everyone around him is wearing nearly the same thing. Simple wool tunics, different shades, different ages, but almost the same design. Workers head toward construction sites. Merchants open their market stalls. Bakers prepare fresh bread. Children run through narrow streets. Everywhere he looks, ordinary Romans wear simple clothing. Today, most of us rarely think twice before choosing a different outfit each morning. But for an ordinary Roman, owning even one good tunic was something worth protecting. As he continues through the marketplace, it's easy to forget that the tunic on his shoulders didn't appear overnight. Its journey began far beyond the city walls. Out in the countryside, shepherds cared for thousands of sheep. Their thick wool would eventually become the clothing worn across the empire. Every spring, the sheep were carefully sheared. This was the first step in creating a single tunic. The raw wool wasn't ready to wear. It had to be cleaned, combed, and prepared by hand before anyone could begin making cloth. Once the fibers were clean, they were twisted into long strands of thread, using nothing more than simple wooden spindles. It was slow, repetitive work. A single mistake could ruin hours of careful effort. Only after enough thread had been prepared could weaving finally begin. Row after row, thread crossed thread until a strong piece of cloth slowly appeared. Only then could a tailor measure, cut, and stitch the cloth into a simple tunic. By the time our Roman pulled that tunic over his shoulders, it already carried the work of countless hands. That's why replacing it was never a simple decision. With the morning nearly over, work is just beginning. Like thousands of ordinary Romans, he spends most of his day outdoors. The summer sun climbs higher, and the air grows warmer with every passing hour. His tunic begins collecting dust almost immediately. By midday, it already looks different from when he left home. There isn't another clean outfit waiting at home. This one has to last until the day's work is finished. The rough wool protects his skin from the sun, but it also traps heat as the afternoon grows hotter. Sweat soaks into the fabric. Dust sticks to it. By now, the tunic carries the marks of another hard day's work. Still, nobody seems surprised. Around him, nearly every worker looks exactly the same. Owning several changes of clothes is a luxury most families can only dream about. For ordinary Romans, keeping a tunic clean wasn't easy, but replacing one was even harder. So when the day's work finally ends, there's only one place left to go: the Roman laundry. As the day's work comes to an end, he doesn't head straight home. Instead, he walks toward one of the busiest places in the neighborhood, the public laundry. Inside, the air smells damp. Stone basins line the room, and workers move from one tub to another without stopping. His tunic joins dozens of others, all stained with dust, sweat, and the marks of another hard day's work. The washing begins, but not with soap, at least not in the way we think of it today. Instead, they pour in a liquid collected from public containers placed around the city. That liquid was aged human urine. Strange as it sounds today, Romans discovered it worked surprisingly well for cleaning wool. As the liquid aged, it produced ammonia, a natural compound that helped break down grease trapped deep inside the fabric. Workers climbed into the stone tubs and spent hours pressing the soaked wool beneath their feet. It was exhausting work, but it helped keep valuable clothing clean enough to wear again and again. By sunset, his only tunic is clean once more, ready for another day, though its journey is far from over. Days turn into weeks. Weeks become months. The same tunic follows him through every season. Little by little, the fabric begins to wear out, The edges become thinner, and the stitches grow weaker. Then one ordinary afternoon, it finally happens. A small tear appears near the bottom of the tunic, not large enough to ruin it, but impossible to ignore. Buying another one never crosses his mind. There is only one solution. That evening, beside the light of a small oil lamp, the repair begins. Every stitch is placed with care. A few more minutes of work could mean a few more months of use. Across the empire, thousands of families did exactly the same thing. A patch wasn't something to hide. It was a sign that nothing useful should be wasted. Some tunics lasted so long that they were passed from one generation to the next. For an ordinary Roman, a simple tunic was never just another piece of clothing. It carried years of work and a lifetime of memories. On his way home, the streets are busier than ever. Workers, merchants, soldiers, and officials all fill the city before nightfall. Most people look familiar. Their clothes are plain, practical, and made for everyday life. Then someone catches his eye. Unlike the workers, he wears a toga. It isn't designed for hard labor. It's a symbol of citizenship, status, and respect. The rich could afford cleaner fabrics, finer weaving, and garments reserved for special occasions. But for ordinary families, life looked very different. One well-made tunic was often enough for years. No matter how important the people around him looked, tomorrow morning he would wake up and wear the very same tunic again. And he wasn't alone. Across the empire, millions of ordinary Romans lived exactly the same way. Their clothes rarely changed, but their lives never stood still. As the sun disappears beyond the city walls, another ordinary Roman day finally comes to an end. As darkness settles over Rome, he finally returns home after another long day. He carefully removes his tunic. It's dusty, faded, and patched, but it has carried him through another day. Instead of throwing it aside, he folds it with care. Tomorrow morning, he'll need it again. For families like his, clothing wasn't something to replace whenever fashions changed. It was something to protect, repair, and respect. Every thread represented hours of work. Every patch saved precious time. Every stitch helped a family avoid making another costly garment. Today, changing clothes can take only a few seconds. For an ordinary Roman, replacing even one tunic could take months of skilled labor. That's why most Romans proudly wore the same clothes again and again. Not because they didn't care about appearance, but because every garment was genuinely worth caring for. So the next time you change into a fresh shirt without thinking, remember the ordinary Roman whose single tunic carried the story of an entire life. Tomorrow, as the sun rises over Rome once again, he'll put on the same tunic and begin another ordinary day. And perhaps that's the most extraordinary part of all. History isn't just about emperors and battles. It's also about ordinary people and the everyday objects that shaped their lives. If you enjoyed this journey through ancient Rome, there's much more to discover.